So I've been working on something really special, and today I'm finally ready to show it to you. It's called SparkFlow, a system designed to help you execute smarter on what truly matters. Now, to do that, I had to solve 4 key challenges. What does actually matter? How do you get what you want? How do you course correct? And how do you repeat that same success? Now, what I thought would take about 2 months took 8 months, but it was worth it. So today, let's look at just 3 of the biggest problems that I've solved, just 3, and how they make SparkFlow the smartest system I've ever built. The first one is called the map. Now let's look at the problem first. You know how it goes. January comes around, you set big goals, you feel unstoppable, but by February, things start slipping. And suddenly all of these goals feel more like wishes than actual plans. So I started investigating, I started digging into this. And it turned out motivation isn't the real problem. You know what the real issue is? Most people don't have a clear link between their big picture goals and their daily actions. And here's the thing, sometimes the problem isn't in just the execution, it's the goal itself. That's why I always insist on structuring goals into 12-week cycles to keep them realistic and actionable. But if you're still not achieving them, then it comes down to one of these 2 things. Either you've lined up the wrong projects or you're not executing on them the way you should. So I came up with a solution, the map. The main database around goals is called GoalFlow in SparkFlow. It asks for your goal and its cycle, and then it automatically assigns the timeline. So you always track elapsed time and progress. So instead of overwhelming year-long plans, 12-week cycles keep executions structured, realistic, and easier to adjust. Now the map solves 2 critical challenges. It helps you understand how much effort you've already put in, and it also shows whether you're pacing all of this correctly based on the elapsed time. So by tracking completed tasks against projects, against the time that's already passed, you instantly know if you're on track or you're falling behind. So now there's no guesswork, no gut. Your execution is black and white. It's measurable. Now think of the map as a real-time scorecard for your goals. It pulls up all of this data from multiple levels, your goals, your projects, your tasks, and it calculates all of this progress as a fraction, tasks completed upon total tasks. Then it color codes your performance ratios, so you can see where you stand at a glance. Now green indicates you're above 75%, your strong progress, well on track. Orange, on the other hand, is moderate progress, 50 to 75%. You're moving forward, but you might need to pick up the pace. Red is clearly where you need attention, below 50%. This could be early stage, or there could be slow progress, and you're still building momentum. The key insight is not how much work you've already done. It's also about whether you're keeping up with the time. For example, if you're halfway through a goal's timeline, but you're only 25% through the work, you immediately know that something needs to change. That's why I say no more guesswork, no more uncertainty. But making all of this work behind the scenes is actually quite a big challenge. And that's why I built the power of SparkFlow's interconnected systems. Each database, goal flow, focus flow, which contains your OKRs, the project flow, which is the projects, priority flow, which is weekly priorities, and week flow, which is the tasks, are all connected in a sequence, meaning each level is only communicating with the one directly below it. Data flows step by step, ensuring that a task always knows which goal it belongs to. When you create focus flows, which is OKRs as I said earlier, from goals, it pretty much does it automatically with a quick assign button. You take this goal, all the properties, and you pass them down to the next level. So at each level, you just enter incremental information, not redundant data entry. But this continues right down the chain. So every project, every task stays linked to the original goal. This isn't as simple as linking a few databases together. It requires an extensive understanding of how Notion arrays work. Now, aligning 12-week cycles isn't as straightforward as it seems. Weeks don't always start on a Monday, and the year doesn't begin with a perfect full week. So SparkFlow has to dynamically adjust start and end dates to maintain alignment. Now, with a network of automations and some seriously intricate formulae, SparkFlow doesn't just track progress, it thinks. But all of this is behind the scenes, so you don't really have to worry about any of this. Let's talk about another one. So Alex Hormozi explains this really well. Each one of us has 2 types of time. manager time, and maker time. Now, manager time is all about these interactions, meetings, calls, taking quick decisions, handling as much engagement in that time as possible. It's fast-paced, constantly shifting from one thing to another. But then there's also maker time. It's this quiet, focused time where real work gets done. The time to create, to solve, and to execute. Now here's the catch. Maker time is fragile. One small distraction and 2 hours is gone. It's all deep work time. And for the average person, they only get 10 of these blocks a week. That's it. The real challenge is, how do you protect this maker time so you can actually move forward? Now Notion already has these buttons, which I've also implemented inside the week flow database and the time flow database, which does time tracking. But here's the issue. You don't get any real-time feedback. So the solution I've come up with is using a physical timer, right? That counts up and down to 0. For years I've been using this. But I started noticing some frustrating limitations. Firstly, there's only one timer. So if I need to track multiple things at once, I can't. Secondly, it's physical. Means I have to lug it around with me. And that's just one more thing to manage. Third, my deep working sessions often last 1, 2, maybe more than 2 hours. And every time I hit this 60 minutes, I have to reset the timer manually, which breaks my flow. And lastly, I track multiple timers simultaneously. And you might be wondering, what am I doing? For example, if I'm in deep work sessions, but I have to pause because there's a call that's come up, I don't want to reset my time. I want to pause it and resume it later. And at the same time, I need to track that call separately so that we don't go off track. I want to stay on schedule. And that's why I built the flow timer system inside of SparkFlow. So instead of one basic timer, I now have 3 independent flow timers, all independent, all running inside of Notion. Each one comes with an alarm, a pause, and resume function. Clear indicators showing which of these timers are paused, running, or completed. I can set each timer to count up or down for up to 99 hours and 59 minutes. So whether I'm tracking deep work, meetings, or something else, I never lose track of time again. And none of these embedded solutions had all of these functionalities that I'm talking about. Let's look at the tech behind this. Now, it's always there when you need it. So there's no setup required. You just open Notion, bam, it's there, it's ready. And you get 9 timers, not 3, across 3 embedded locations. They all work independently. But that's more than enough for any scenario. Since you can label each one, you never lose track. You know what each one is all about. Now Notion doesn't have audible alarms. I don't know why they didn't do it. But that didn't let me stop. So I engineered a workaround using JavaScript and HTML. So now SparkFlow literally notifies you when the time is up. And for that audible alarm to work, the workaround, you just need to keep your default browser window minimized. Just a simple way to ensure that you never miss the timer. And it's fully persistent. Let me explain. The timer keeps running even if the window isn't active. Whether you're working inside another Notion tab, another Notion window, or even in a completely different app, it works. And the background switches automatically from light to dark mode. And you know what's best of all? It's yours with this template. No subscriptions, no paywalls. Let's talk about JotPad, the one I'm most excited about. You know how these best ideas always come to you when you least expect them, 2 o'clock in the morning. Could be a random thought, a to-do, or even a game-changing insight. And I like what David Allen says in his book, Getting Things Done. Your brain is for having ideas, not holding them. But here's the thing, you know, the average person has over 6,000 thoughts a day. Now, some of them are rubbish, you can ignore them. But where do the nice ones go? They get scattered across post-its, some random journal entry, some Apple Notes, basically everywhere except when you need them. And then you hunt around for where did I note it. And organizing all of those thoughts takes time. Time you could be spending on coming up with more ideas or actually on executing them. So I came up with a solution, JotPad. So it started as a way to keep these notes right where I need them, like sticky notes, but in Notion. And I wanted them on a specific page. So I created a this page view where Jot stayed attached to the exact pages that they belong to. And to make that data entry instant, I linked it to an app called Instant Notion. This is an app I've been using for a long time. And that lets you capture Jots on the go, even offline. You know what's the best part? It's easy to tag jots to the right SparkFlow pages, so you never have to worry about where to put them. And since it's mobile first, you can jot these ideas down anywhere, at work, at home, in a meeting, or even in the toilet. And the best part, you can talk to it, type on it, and even enter your jots offline and pick it up from where you left on your desktop. But then I wanted to make it smarter. I realized some of these ideas needed to persist across multiple pages. So I built a global jot view that keeps them visible everywhere. So when you're working with your team, for example, I wanted to share jots. So I created team jots where everyone can add and access these notes together. And if you want to look at your jots that you created today, it automatically shows up in the today view, keeping things fresh. But then I started to look at projects which I work on a persistent basis. So I wanted a project-specific notes area. So I made a dedicated changes view to track them. But here's where it gets interesting. Some ideas are too important to lose in all of this noise. So I built Pinit. Now Pinit lets you mark urgent jots for the next day. To create that urgency, Pinits expire after 3 days. If you don't act on them, they unpin themselves automatically. But to make sure you act on them, I set up an email automation. It reminds me to handle them first thing in the morning. And because not all jots are equal, I created 4 importance levels: critical, high, medium, and low. Then you might come back and say, hey, I have 2 critical priorities. Which one should I handle first? So I created a priority with a 1 to 5 scale. So you always know what to tackle first. But it doesn't clutter your workspace. All of this is handled using minimalist emojis and superscripts. But what about those ideas that you didn't act upon? Now that's where Second Life comes in. It resurfaces old unexecuted jots every 3 days, giving you a tickle. Then it disappears again, giving you a second chance to act. Then I noticed something. Some jots were actually tasks. Some belong to the second brain, so I could actually move them. So I built this task that jot and jot to brain. 2 automations that lets you instantly convert a jot into a task or a permanent knowledge entry. So then it moves away from JotPad, but they still stay as done inside JotPad. And all of this is with 1 click. So the task it checkbox sends it to the week flow, which is your tasks database. And the jot to brain checkbox moves it to BrainFlow, which is your second brain database. It copies all relevant details also along with it, or so none of that information is lost. But then, there are these jots that I have all over the place. What if I just needed to sort and arrange these thoughts before I act on them? That's where I looked at creating something called a jot board. So it's a brainstorming space, a board. Organize them and then finally deboard them once they're ready for execution. You want to keep a copy, take a screenshot. It's simple, but it's a very powerful way to visually structure your ideas so you always know what's ready for action. I want to talk about how JotPad actually helped me build SparkFlow. I've been using this same exact system for the last 8 months to build SparkFlow. And honestly, it's been a game changer. Every idea, every breakthrough, every improvement in SparkFlow started as a jot. Let's talk about the tech. It's all powered by advanced formulae, automations, and seamless integrations with apps like Instant Notion as well. From buttons in perspectives for boards to be timestamps, for jots to go into a jot graph, every feature is designed to work together smoothly. Automations handle emails, pinits, Second Life, auto tagging, and even remove pinits after expiry. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes, but you never feel it. It just works. Did you know that SparkFlow has so many genius features that it needed a voice? That's why I created Daily Spark, a feature inside of my incredibly detailed wiki. So every day a new feature surfaces inside your Daily Spark with a direct link to its wiki page. SparkFlow scales with you. The more you use it, the more it naturally reveals features you might not even know existed. The SparkFlow now runs over 250 automations and formulae as of today. And if there's ever a feature that you wish SparkFlow had, let me know. And if it's popular and possible within Notion, I'll build it. You want to start using SparkFlow? The link is in the description. Go explore it for yourself.